Hello and welcome to this installment of Talkin Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we're looking at the carpet flooring kit for the Austin Healey BJ8 models. Specifically, this video is focused on the Phase 1 version of the carpet set. There were two phases to the BJ8, Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 2 is by far and away the more commonly seen version of the car, and they did have some subtle interior trim changes related to the sort of centre console, the centre cushion armrest, and the carpet set and rear quarter panel wheel arch panels. Worth checking out my other videos on the YouTube channel, some of which will be featured at the end of this video, because I do go into lots of details about the differences in the trim. But it's important to remember this is the Phase 1, which is quite a rare version. But the overview generally is pretty decent for Phase 1 and Phase 2 with some subtle changes, which I will mention when we get to those parts. This specific carpet set has been done in black wool. Wool is our premium carpet option. We can offer three different versions of carpet. We can offer nylon at the more sort of budget end of the spectrum. Karvel, which is original for a majority of the big Healeys from the factory, or wool. Wool being the most premium. It's also, I would argue, the best quality, durable, and overall best finish. So we do encourage people to use wool. Originally from the factory, the majority of the big Healeys, so the 104s, 106s and 3000s, did leave with Karvel carpets. Some BJ8s from our records probably did leave with wool, but not many. So it was an option from the factory, certainly from our archive records. But we do encourage people to consider wool because it is a premium carpet material for these automotive cars, and it's absolutely lovely. It's, like I say, more durable. It's a better finish, and it has a much wider colour range than Karvel and nylon. But just to show you the comparison, this is Karvel, which was the original carpet used. It's very distinctive because it has a rib feature to it. You can see the ribs going down there. This is obviously dark blue, and it has a Hessian backing on it. So obviously we can offer this as well. The crucial thing to remember with Karvel is that there's not many colour options. You've basically got black, dark blue, red and grey, whereas wool, we have an abundance of different shades. We have, for example, in red, we have 4 different shades of red that we can use. So do check out our materials and colours library. When considering carpets as well, it's also worth considering the backing and the pile density, etc. Now, the wool that we use is the most suitable premium automotive carpet material. It has a rubber backing on it, a solid rubber backing on it. There is another version of wool that is offered by quite a few other automotive interior trim suppliers out there, but it has quite a rough backing, rubber backing, and it starts to flake off and crumble. We did actually very briefly use that wool as part of our range, but we stopped using it very quickly because we realized it wasn't that suitable. And a real test of the quality of carpet is the density of the pile. So if you look at this carpet here, if you bend it over, you can barely see any of the backing through the pile, and that's because it's a very densely packed pile. If you compare that to the wool that I just mentioned that other companies out there offer, you can see the backing coming through, and especially on Gearbox carpets and things like that, it really does make a big difference, making sure that the pile is densely packed. So this is the most premium automotive wool that you want to be putting in sports cars of this era. Trust us on that one. I am going to be doing a blog post and a video detailing the raw material side of things and the quality of the materials, because this is what sets us apart from a lot of other companies in the industry. One of many things is the quality and suitability of the raw materials. Even before we've started cutting any parts or sewing any parts, it's the quality of the raw materials and the suitability of those raw materials. And we really take that very seriously. So bear that in mind. But yeah, effectively, you have a 3-tier option on the carpets: nylon, Karvel or wool, but we do recommend wool. Like I said, it's been done in black. It's been done to a left-hand drive specification. However, the actual carpet set itself doesn't change. It's all related to the heel pads. Now, as standard, we always put heel pads on both the driver and the passenger side, but this customer over in America specifically asked for just the heel pad on the driver's side, so we've done that, and I'll touch on that again in a bit. Now, you'll also note that some of the carpets have been edged, but not all of them. Bit of a subject of debate about Healey and the edging of carpets. A lot of cars, certainly the earlier cars, left the factory without any edging on, or very little edging on it, and that was almost certainly a cost-saving exercise, but also it was an era of manufacture where they didn't necessarily have the consistency from car to car to be able to effectively pre-make kits that would fit every single car well, whereas we've adapted and changed our patterns over the years and made them extremely flexible, shall we say, in the way that we've made them. And this is the concept I want to talk to you about. So the edging of carpets, one, we use leather cloth, which is the correct material to edge carpets in. We do not use vinyl. Very crucial difference. And a lot of other companies out there will use vinyl for their edging of their carpets, and it becomes a lot more bulbous and big and doesn't look as nice, and it also scuffs and snags quite easily. Leather cloth, which is also known as vinide or Rexin, is the correct material to use for edging of carpets, especially for this era of manufacture. Again, do see our blog post and our video detailing the importance of that distinction there. So we do use leather cloth. Now you'll see, for example, the front floors and the rear floor carpets have edging on them, but the Gearbox carpet there only has a bit of edging on the cutaways here, but not on the left and right sides. The concept of edging is that basically when everything is said and done in the car, you will not see any raw edge. It will either be tucked underneath the adjacent carpet that is edged, or it will be tucked underneath a panel. A good example of this is the sill carpets. They have no edging on them because the inside edge there will tuck underneath the front and rear floor carpets when it's fitted, and the outside edge will tuck underneath the door panel sill sort of area. Same again on the Gearbox left and rights. None of the left and rights of the Gearbox pieces are edged, and that's because they will tuck underneath the front and rear floor carpets. Which brings me on to what I was saying about the adaptation of our patterns. Now, obviously, we've tried to make everything true and consistent to Originality, but we've also tried to improve the patterns where possible. And a great example is the Gearbox carpet. So we've made these wider than they need to be, deliberately, because they're not edged. You can tuck them underneath the front and rear floor carpets, and that not only helps keep the Gearbox carpet in place better, but it also means you have the seamless finish throughout the car where there's no gaps in between carpets because things are tucked underneath and it goes in between one another, and that allows us to maximize, shall we say, the fitment element of things in these cars. And this is why we're known globally for our quality workmanship and fitment, is because of these subtle little changes that we've done over the years that really improves the fitment during the car. On that note, it is worth keeping in mind that when it comes to Heelys, we've not only supplied kits that the cars have ended up winning or being placed in concourse events, but we've also supplied interior kits, including BJ8 kits, for some of the concourse judges over in America. And I think that's a real stamp of approval that judges of the concourse events come to us for their kits. There's also a few very notable Heely restorers, both in the UK and around the world, that use our kits and only use our kits for their restoration projects. People like Murray Scott Nelson, Rules Motorsport, Jeremy Healy, etc. Just name of three in the UK that use our kits on a regular basis. So do bear that in mind. We are the chosen supplier for very high-end restorations because they know the quality of our work. So yeah, that's the concept on edging of carpets. Basically that the unbound edges won't be on show when everything is said and done. So this is a bit of common sense that we've used to improve and make things as easy and best fitment for you at your end. Now, obviously, there is that subject to debate about original edging on carpets. We can provide carpet sets to OEM specification, that is factory spec. So if you want us to do a carpet set where it had either no edging on it or the minimal amount of edging that they occasionally put on the cars, then let us know. We can, of course, offer that. That's not a problem at all. In fact, I'm sure I've done a BJ8 video showing Karvel with the original spec edging on it, so be sure to check that out. Now, while we're talking about Originality, I'm sure a few of you out there have noticed our gearbox. Our gearbox carpet is in two pieces. Originally, it was in one. And again, we can offer the one-piece gearbox carpet if you want, and do check out our other video which shows that. But we have deliberately done for all of the centre change Heely 3000, so some of the BT7s, some of the BN7s, the BJ7s and the BJ8s, they all had a very, very big one-piece gearbox carpet, and it just didn't fit very well at all. It was a bad design, basically. So, yeah, there are things you can do to kind of make it fit a bit better into the car, but ultimately you're just working with a poor design that can only be tweaked to improve it slightly. So it is quite hard to get a good fit on the one-piece carpet, which is why we standardly offer this two-piece carpet. So you've got the main piece there, then you've got the sort of front underdash clutch housing area there. Now, obviously they join. We've put a bit of a gap there for this vinyl here, but they do join up and semi-overlap one another. That's obviously where the gear stick comes out, which is that cutaway there and there. And obviously for the BJ8s, you have the luxury of the fact that the console covers most of that as well, so you don't really see much of the join. But either way, the join is edged down that piece there. Now, the reason we've done the gearbox piece in two pieces is because two reasons. One, it allows you to get easier access to the actual gearbox itself, but two, it allows you to fit the carpets a lot easier, i.e. the finish is better. Like I say, the one-piece gearbox tunnel carpets, they just look baggy and awful, whereas this two-piece one does make that process simpler. I'm not going to say it's straight away perfect. You do still have to play with it, but it makes the idea of fitting the gearbox carpet so much easier to get a neater finish, so do bear that in mind. While we're on the subject of the gearbox, and I will talk about this in a bit more depth, this piece here is not original for the BJ8 set at all. This is an optional extra that a customer has requested, which I'll go over. It's basically he wanted a carpet cover plate panel for the gearbox inspection area. So we've made him this that he'll fit at his end along with a fixing, but it's not included as standard in our BJ8 kit at all, so do bear that in mind. Going back to the actual one-piece versus two-piece gearbox carpets, as standard, we will always offer it in this two-piece setup unless you specifically ask us to do the one-piece version, so do bear that in mind. Same concept again on the heel pads. We'll automatically put heel pads on both sides and we'll automatically bind carpets where we see applicable and suitable, unless you specifically tell us otherwise, so do bear that in mind. Anyway, let's start at the front of the car. So you get a pair of these archway pieces here, which basically go up into the left and right areas of the tunnel, footwell, firewall area, right up in the heel pad, up in the underdash area there. So you get a pair of those pre-cut. There's no binding on them there, so they are slightly oversized, again, to allow you to tuck bits underneath adjacent carpets to maximise the fit. You then have the toe board carpets, which are these carpets here. They're edged all the way around apart from on this bottom edge here. Again, the concept being that that will tuck down onto the floor and this will sit over the top of it. That's obviously on the vertical like that. So again, you're maximising the fitment area there. So you get a pair of those. They're literally the toe boards behind the pedals here. Then you get the sill carpets. So right sill and left sill, which obviously run down the length of the car underneath the door down to the front edge of the rear quarter panel. No edging on them, but again, they are made wider or deeper than they need to be, so it does that step process. You're tucking it underneath the, effectively the chrome of the door just there, and then the other sides tuck underneath the front and rear floor carpets. Then if we go on to the gearbox, obviously I've touched on it a bit here already. But like I say, ours is in the two-piece version. Do see our other video for the one-piece version. But you had this sort of section here, which is the kind of clutch housing directly underneath the dash, this bit here, which has some bits of sewing into them to create the shape as such. So it bulbs up. It's edged on that front edge there. A lot of that obviously gets overlapped with those pieces there. But the left and right edges aren't edged because they will tuck underneath the front floor carpets here. Obviously everything's a bit out of position from the way I've laid it out. Then the back edge here is also edged, but you get some darts sewn into these pieces here, which again help form the shape around the gearbox tunnel on the sort of semi left side there. And then it has this section here, which is half of the opening to the other half here, which is obviously where the gear stick comes out. Now obviously the majority of it's hidden by the console. The earlier BJ7 cars, are we going to see any photos of? I'm not sure we are, unfortunately, but yeah, they obviously have an exposed there we go, get the glare off. So that's obviously where the gear stick comes out of, and on the BJ8 cars they added the console that's hid it, but that's the concept of that front carpet piece wrapping round and then a rear one wrapping round as well. So that's the element of that there. Get back to this page for reference. So that's the front gearbox section. That's the sort of main gearbox section there. So the cutaway obviously for the gear stick there. Now we obviously provide as standard a piece of vinyl that you use to wrap around and trim the actual dome section there. Even though most of it is hidden, sometimes they do protrude slightly out, and therefore we supply that as standard. Now, carrying on with this main gearbox section here, you have obviously the cutaway here, which is where the handbrake sits. Again, we provide a pre-cut piece of material there for covering up the metalwork bodywork, so that basically you just see the handbrake and none of the bodywork. Don't think we're really, you can see the handbrake there, but yeah, that's the concept there. It's mostly hidden by the seats anyway. So that's that piece, and again, like I say, everything's made bigger than it needs to be, so you can tuck underneath adjacent carpets, and one, it helps keep the position of the carpet a lot better, but two, it allows for that seamless finish between each of the carpet pieces there. Now obviously I mentioned that we had done this special cover plate, effectively cover, so it's going to go around there. We've provided the poppers and whatnot for the customer to install at his end, so that is not supplied as standard, but we can supply it if you want, so do let us know. Then we got the front floor carpet, so obviously the right hand carpet and the left hand carpet. The driver's side heel pad on this particular set has the correct Austin of England heel pad, ribbed rubber heel pad sewn into position. Like I say, we do that as standard on both the driver's and passenger side, unless you tell us otherwise, but that does match up to the original spec one there, so bear that in mind. So a pair of carpets there, they are bound all the way around. You then have the rear floor carpets, again a pair and bound all the way around. Now the rear floor carpets are one of the main areas that changes between phase 1 and phase 2, and it's all related to this cutout here. So the phase 1's had a gentle gradual curve going around, whereas the phase 2's, it was a bit bigger and squarer. Do see our other video related to that. Now it's all down to these rear axle boxes here. I think it mentions somewhere. Oh yes, there we are. Mounting point of the rear axle radius arm. So the phase 2s, they had a change to the axle radius arms, and they had these boxes that appeared at the bottom of the wheel arch quarter panels that were covered in carpet there, and so the cutaway was made bigger to accommodate that on the phase 2s, and obviously on the phase 2 carpet sets you ended up with a piece of carpet that's ended up with some vinyl on it to end up trimming to that, so bear that in mind as well. But the phase 1s, it was like this, and you get a pair of them. Like I say, do see our other video which goes into detail on the phase 2 versions there. You then had effectively the lower bulkhead, which is the section kickboard effectively behind you, behind the seats, with a cutaway there obviously for the prop shaft gearbox tunnel coming through. Again, slightly oversized, so it allows for the flow in between the carpets, etc. Then you had these pieces, which are the kind of wheel arch pieces. People often get very confused by these, because ultimately they're barely seen when everything's said and done. They sit behind these quarter panels, so effectively you're trimming the carpet to the bodywork wheel arch, and then the quarter panel goes over the top, and then when this top boot cover's on, you don't see them at all. But there is a bit of time where effectively, if you didn't have the top boot cover on and you looked down behind the rear quarter panel, you would see a bit of exposed bodywork. So we supply these carpet pieces here, but ultimately, say if you're not replacing the rear quarter panels, etc., you don't necessarily need them. We include them as standard, but they do confuse quite a few people, and quite a few people often end up fitting the carpets, driving the cars and thinking we sent them 2 extra pieces by mistake until they realise. So if you need a photo showing the detail of how they go in a car, do let me know, because like I say, they do confuse people. Those ones there. And then finally, you get this effectively rear bulkhead carpet here. Now it's worth noting on this one, we supply the carpet here for the BJ7s and the BJ8s with carpet section there, but the earlier cars, they didn't have carpet there, and it's all related to the change in the soft top convertible hood and the hood frame cover. The BJ7s and the BJ8s had quite a good design where they had this gutter system that caught a load of the water that came down at the back of the car. Whereas the earlier cars didn't. So obviously you can put carpet on the rear bulkhead on the BJ7s and BJ8s because it's not going to get wet because it's got this clever gutter system. Whereas the earlier cars, say the BT7 for example, they should have vinyl on that section because otherwise the water from the hood's going to drip down onto carpet and make it all soggy and smelly. Quite a few other companies out there, as standard, supply carpet for all of those cars there because they've tried to generically make the carpet set exactly the same for each model, whereas we haven't. We've kept true to originality and suitability. So BJ7s, BJ8s, you get this carpet piece going from left to right here. Again, unedged, slightly oversized to allow for easy fitment during the car. And that is effectively the carpet set. Like I say, phase one with an optional extra element there. In addition to the carpet set, you should be considering getting a under carpet soundproofing kit. We offer the natural jute felt kits. It's about 6mm. Obviously, people do put the modern day Dynamat material. Other brands are available into the cars, and it's very, very effective stuff. I'm never going to try and claim that our natural jute felt is anything compared to the modern day stuff. We are in the process of passing up to provide full pre-cut kits in those modern day versions, but for the time being we just offer the natural jute felt. But people often ask me, if I've got the Dynamat for example in the car, do I need your natural jute felt? And the answer depends on the thickness of the modern day stuff. They offer a wide range of thicknesses. The really premium stuff is very, very thin, to the point where once you've applied it to the car it's basically nothing, like it's about 1 mil thick, if that. I've got it in my car, great stuff. However, if it is the thin stuff you are using, we do recommend that you use our natural jute felt kit as well. And that's for kind of two main reasons. One really main reason, the placement of the carpets within the car. You've got to imagine that these carpets were all designed with a certain thickness underneath the carpets to allow them to fit correctly around certain parts. And therefore, we always recommend you need about 5 to 10 millimeters of thickness underneath the carpet. So if your modern day heat and sound proofing kit is one of the thicker versions, between 5 and 10 mil, great. You really don't need our natural jute felt kit, but the majority of them are a lot thinner, and so we do recommend putting this on top. It's not going to do anything in terms of improving sound and heat because the modern day one is covering that base, but it does provide the correct depth and height for the carpets to sit on top of, but also it has the added benefit of being softer underfoot as well, so bear that in mind. So that kit there is sold separately. Then you'll also want to consider the fixings. So we provide the original style fixings here. So you have this pop rivet element that's pop riveted to the bodywork of the car, and then these two-piece spiky bits. So effectively you spike that through the carpet on the corner, that goes onto the back of it, locks through, and then when everything's said and done, that will interchange with that and fix it down in place there. If you do need a bit of help and guidance on where the fixings go, do let us know. There are also some crucial tips to fitting a carpet and the amount of glue and where you glue. People go a bit too gung-ho using glue. We don't recommend that. Glue should be there for certain pieces definitely, but for other pieces try and keep it to a minimal and use the fixings and the weight of the carpets in place. Again, this all ties back in to our subtle changes to the design of carpets to make them fit well into the cars, and it's about using shared weight of pieces on top of one another. For example, the gearbox is kept in place beautifully by the fact that it tucks underneath the front and rear floor carpets, and that keeps a decent amount of weight in place because the front and rear floor carpets either have the seats on top of them or the fixings fitted into the floor carpets as well. So it keeps everything said and done. So it means that the gearbox carpet, you only need to add a minimum amount of glue in certain areas just to lightly anchor it in place, but you don't go overboard on it. So again, more than happy to give people help and advice on that if they need, even their professional trimmers. So they are sold separately as well to the carpet set. And then finally, you might want to consider the overmats. Overmats are literally what they say. So they're literally overmats for the footwells. They're sold as a pair. They're rubber. They have this grippy backing to it. It has Austin Healey written across it there. They are made generically for all of the Heelys Yeah, and they work lovely. So it just stops you getting mud all over your lovely carpets. So again, they are sold separately, but you might want to consider that. Now, it's worth mentioning at this point here that obviously the BJ8 had carpets as part of the rear shelf folding rear seat element. So this backrest folded down, and you had carpet section here. Our carpet sets don't include this carpet here. So dependent on the level of restoration you're going for, let us know. Obviously, we can supply those pieces matching if you want. We do supply that as standard in our rear seat kit. So if you're getting a full interior from us, it doesn't matter. We'll obviously tie in the material and the colour accordingly. But if you're just getting the carpet set, then perhaps you should consider getting this as well, depending on what level of restoration you're going to in terms of restoring the rear shelf, and vice versa as well. Obviously, if you're just getting the rear shelf kit, the rear seat kit, we'll ask you what carpet's in your car, and we'll obviously try and match it up as closely as possible. So bear that in mind as well. So I think that's covered it. I hope you found that informative. Like I say, Phase 1 BJ8, so quite a rare version. Do see our other videos for the Phase 2, which is a much more commonly seen version. Available in either nylon, Karvel or wool. This has been the wool version here, premium automotive wool. It's got this extra piece here for the inspection cover area. You'll want to consider getting the felts and the fixings and some overmats at the same time, all of which are sold separately. And yeah, you want to consider the element of the rear seat. Then also keep in mind the Originality versus the upgraded, well, rather the improved Gearbox setup there, which we offer as standard. But if you want the one-piece version, do let us know. Same again on the heel pads and the binding elements of things. So we're very flexible in what we do. We do offer things as standard unless you specifically say otherwise. But of course, we can work to whatever level of restoration you're working to. So keep that in mind. Either way, thanks for tuning in. Please remember to like, share and subscribe with other classic car enthusiasts. Be sure to check out the links at the end of this video to other useful videos for your BJ8 restoration. And of course, do check out our YouTube channel generally for an overview of the parts that we can supply for your restoration. If you're interested, of course, just get in contact with us via our contact page on our website. And I look forward to you tuning in next time. Thanks again.